loyal and proud to have worked for Carr's, a benevolent family firm, some of them receiving long service awards after clocking up 45 years. The workers must have known that they were engaging in a meaningful, if modest, task, their minds probably miles away while they were silently, automatically packing crackers that would be dispatched around the world. For were not Carr's table water biscuits known and enjoyed in all the corners of the globe? So they were being told in the company magazine, the topper off. Many years later, in 1997, Margaret published a book about the history of Carr's, Rich Desserts and Captain's Thin. The title is a bit of a mouthful. They were two of Carr's famous early biscuits. In her book, she was dealing with the early years, from 1831 to 1931, and it was mainly about the Carr family, following them down the generations. It won a prize and sold well, and naturally, I am greatly indebted to it for background information. At the time, though, I remember her moaning about the lack of letters from the main participants, about the problem of finding any colour or personal detail about real life on the factory floor. But it was meant to be a serious quasi-academic study of a pre-war family business dynasty. It did not concern itself with the workers or the post-war decades, which is what I have now decided to attempt. What was life really like for the ordinary women factory workers, the ones who packed the biscuits? How did they stand it? Were they just doing it for the money? How hard was it? Were they happy, accepting, or merely resigned? Or was it their home and personal life, outside their factory life, that really mattered to them? There is some decent oral history of what it was like to be a Carr's factory worker, tape-recorded interviews that cover the period back to the First World War. They were made in the 1950s and again in the 1980s, part of that sudden interest in capturing working-class local history which sprang up after the last war and is today available in most local library and records offices. It is noticeable in the Carlisle archives that members of the Carr family, so important in the city and the county for many decades, were not interviewed. It was the ordinary workers that archivists wanted to capture in those post-war years. I have listened to and read many of these oral accounts and found them all fascinating, but I have not used them here except for a couple of examples. For while they are rich on the interwar or immediate post-war years, they are stories of women now dead, and the task I set myself was to capture the stories of women still alive today, who started in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, and some of whom were still working at the factory up until the last couple of years. For life at Carr's, and at similar factories all over the country, all over the world, still goes on, though the number of factory workers in the UK is roughly half of what it was in the immediate post-war years. One problem with oral history, fascinating though it can be, is that it is not proactive. The oral historian's tape recorder records, content to receive what it is being told. Oral historians are essentially archivists, not seeing it as their job to cross-examine, counter, or comment. The problem with the opposite journalistic approach is that while the interviewer might properly engage, stir up and drag out, he or she often has an agenda, even if it is just their own personal interests and concerns, which can slant or distort the end result, highlighting certain aspects, minimizing others. I like to think I have let the 6 women who tell their story here talk naturally, as they wanted to, allowing their own memories to flow freely, but also making them try hard to remember feelings and events, fashions and entertainments, local and national, that they have all lived through. I am roughly the same age as them, and my childhood home was Carlisle, so this helped me to focus them and jog their memories of times and places without, I hope, trying to make them fit any of my preconceptions or prejudices. However, the book is not just about the lives of 6 women. It is equally a slice of recent social history, about events and changes in Carlisle, most of which were going on in Britain.